Good morning. Today I'm here to talk to you about choosing a size and the proper gauge and most importantly the size that you want to do for your knitted sweater or hat, but mostly we're today going to talk about sweaters. And it's critical that you really do the right size, and the only way to do the right size is to have your measurements or the measurements of the person that you're going to knit for. You also need to know in your pattern whether there's positive ease or negative ease and what the measurements are based on. Are they based on an actual fitted size or the actual measurement of the sweater, or are they to fit your bust size with 2 to 4 to 6 inches of positive ease? A lot of styles today have a lot of width here. So it's very, very important that you read that information, and if you don't quite understand it, get someone to interpret it for you. This pattern that I'm looking at says that it has 5 inches of positive ease, which means, so let's say the bust size is 32, it's got 5 extra inches in here, so that it's meant to fit a little loosely. And because it's a winter sweater, you may want to put turtlenecks, something else underneath it. So a good exercise to do is to get your measurements or the measurement of the person that you're doing. So a critical one, and we'll demonstrate this in a minute, is your hip measurement. Then there's a waist measurement, a bust, and this is the most important one because this is one that you can't change once you start knitting. You can change your waist by, if it is a slightly A-lined kind of garment, you can add stitches in here. If you want it to come in a little bit at the waist, you can decrease and then increase in here. You can also decide where that waist is in relation to your bust and your hip. You can, another important measurement is from the armhole to where you want the sweater to be. So you can take a sweater that you like and make this measurement, or you can measure from here to see where you want it to be. Your hip measurement goes around the widest part of your hips. So that includes your backside. I saw people we did this in a class, and a lot of people were doing it above the widest part. Well, that's not going to help you if you want a sweater that comes down to your hip. You have to make sure that fits. And again, you can add stitches in here on either side of this side area. Another good measurement to have is from your shoulder to your armhole. We all are created differently, and depending on the size that you do and the person who designed the sweater, this measurement may be different for you. So that's important. If you're doing a raglan, you want to make sure that your raglan increases are long enough in here so that you're not like way up in your armhole. You want some ease here. The other one is your arm length, and I measure it from here to here, from under my arm to where I want it to stop. So a good measurement is to measure from under your arm to your wrist, measure to maybe a 3/4 length, and maybe a short sleeve length, so that you always have those measurements, because most people have different, well, you could have 2 people with this size medium who fit into the medium size, but their arm lengths are different. So don't go by what the pattern says, and that holds true for this measurement here, because we all have, some of our bodies are longer than others. And while your bust size may be the same, these all may be very different depending on the person. But this is the critical one, and you want to decide according to your pattern, is this meant to fit tightly across your bust, or is there ease? So those numbers are very, very important. So we're going to show you, Fiola's going to come over and we're going to show you how to do these measurements. Okay, so I have Fiola here, and we're going to do the first measurement is going to be from the armhole to her wrist. If you hold your arm out, and we would measure from under the arm. Don't jam this way up into your under your arm, because that'll be inaccurate. So you want to measure to the wrist. If you want to even measure here, if you like a longer, some people like a really long sleeve. If you want to measure a short sleeve, you would measure to somewhere in here and a 3/4 length here. The next measurement I would do would be under the arm for this measurement, from under the arm to where you want it to be. You could measure down to the a hip length here. You could also measure the waist. And then the last measurement you would do, well, one other one is your hip. So you would measure around the widest part, and if you just turn around, Fiola, you want it around the widest part of you. Not there.
Yep.
That's not your hip. And then what Fiola's going to do is hold this around the widest part of her bust. And if you turn around, Fiola, you can show them. If you turn this way,
Yep.
You can see how you would do that. So those are your measurements. Don't wear a heavy sweater when you do it. And did we measure this one from shoulder to?
No, but you probably want to do the armhole.
So you could do shoulder down to under the arm, and if you wanted,
Would you do that again, Nancy? I can't.
You could measure from the shoulder down to underneath the arm, and if you wanted to be super smart, you could also do the armhole here, maybe with a little give. You could also measure around your biceps, which is another good measurement to have. Okay? What else could you do? You could measure from your neck to where your hip is going to be. But to have all those measurements is really important, and keep that someplace safe. In a notebook, maybe a notebook, you could have a notebook full of tips and tricks and measurements and patterns that you've done and labels that you've saved, that kind of thing. So thank you, Fiola.
You're welcome.
Your measuring tape is your friend. Always carry it with you when you're knitting. And we'll see you next time. Have a great day.